All right, GM, I walk into the castle and I want to know, who do I see wandering around? Who is that person over there? He's the head groom. Okay, what's his name? His name is Mantarius. All right, great. Who is that person over there? Oh, that's the chamberlain. Okay, good. What's his name? His name is Colburn. What's his last name? Aspron. Okay, good. What's that person over there? That's the blacksmith. You can tell that's the blacksmith because he's got his name written on his apron and his name is Bannock. Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, I go over to Bannock and I ask Bannock, what's the name of your favorite hammer? Well, my favorite hammer's name is Bandin, which is just after Drakeford, which was my other favorite hammer, but then that hammer got destroyed. Have you met my apprentice? His name is Ironbore. Yeah, he's a dwarf. He comes from the Solden Mountains, all the way over in the Kingdom of Bandits, because that's where the random table took me. How do we come up with all these kinds of different names and encounters and things? How do we use random tables so that they actually make sense and they're not just random? And how do we make sure that random tables aren't random, because random is absolutely insane? Probably. Well, this is how. 15. My name is Burns Vinegar. What? My name is Guy, and we're talking about random tables today. Now, what is there to talk about random tables? This was a question that was posed to me on my Discord, and that's discord.gg/greatgm if you want to join us. There is a channel in there to ask questions for videos and things. And so people were asking me, how do I use random tables properly? And you go, well, you take some dice and you roll it, and that gives you a number, and that's the random table. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized, actually that's not entirely true. Random tables come with a whole lot of baggage that we need to be aware of. Now, I am a big random table generator. Every week, my players, not every week, every month, I should say, my patrons get this stuff, which is random tables. I'll bring it up on the screen. It is literally, here's a random table generator for 40 adventures, and here's more random tables of everything. So if you want to know what the name is of a general store owner, the name of the general store owner is Miriam Knoblich. Or perhaps the store's name, for example. It's Miriam's and Miriam's, because that's what I rolled on that table. Bounty hunting. What bounties are out there? Here's one. The Scarlet Hand is wanted because of aggressive pickpocketing. They're a violent pickpocketer. So random tables are very, very powerful. They're very, very useful. I generate a lot of them. But I don't actually use them as random tables. Anyway, let's have a look. So let's jump into it. Random tables. Random tables. Now, what are the pros? What are the values of having random tables? Why do I make so many random tables? Well, principally because it's instant inspiration. Quite literally, you can look down at a random table and go, that's the name of the character. Then you do your interaction, and later on you write down the name of the character in your notes. So they're really good at giving you an instant inspiration, instant answer. They also allow you to think a little bit more. Now, this is if you're using a random table as prescribed. You roll some dice and you get given an answer. What that does is sometimes it gives you an answer that you didn't expect yourself. Perhaps, for example, if you're using a random encounter generator, which I use as an example only. If you're using a random encounter generator and you roll and there are 22 orcs that are now suddenly going to attack the party, where did those orcs come from? Why are they here? Why are they attacking the party? What are they going to do once they've attacked the party? Where are they actually going? And are they, what are their motivations? It inspires you to think more outside of your own plans and headspace, which does indeed make the world feel like there are random events going on. So absolutely, they give you that kind of inspiration. And of course, they're reusable. So if you have a random table that generates 80 or 100 different names, and those are combination names, so you're getting 100,000 or 10,000 or whatever the maths is of that, if you're getting that table, you can reuse it in session after session after session. Obviously, after a while, you might have to increase that random table if your players play with you over an extended period of time. But from one campaign to another, the random tables are gold. So there's a lot of effort that goes into making a random table, but it is reusable for time immemorial. So there is a major positive. Of course, what are the cons? What are the negatives? Well, in terms of negatives, suitability is the first one that jumps to mind. Now, you might have a random table generator, but if your characters walk into a dwarvish mine and everyone's name is Phileas and Phineas and Philippa and Phyllis, because you happen to pick up the sounding random name table generator, you could be in a problem. It's also a case of having a monster encounter and it's, oh look, it's a water elemental. But we're in the desert. Where the hell does a water elemental come from? Aha, you say. Well, that's actually a pro, because now I have to figure out that there's a jug of water that has an elemental stuck inside of it, and that's why it's in the middle of the desert. That's good. But generally speaking, suitability of the randomness that you have drawn doesn't always make sense. There are times where if you have some great rolls, I remember with old random monster treasure generation, sometimes, oh, I slay the great half-orc warrior champion leader war boss. We've been fighting for years. What treasure does he have? 3 copper, 2 gemstones worth 10 gold each, and a rusty dagger, because you rolled badly. So that's a negative. Of course, immersion is immediately broken as well. If your player character walks up to an NPC, hello, what's your name? My name is Judy. My name is Judy. Immersion can be broken if the time it takes you to generate that name is too long. It also kind of feels like you're abdicating your duties as a GM when everything is just a random table. I've even got to the point where people have been saying, oh, it's completely random. The GM doesn't even need to think too much. They're just linking all these random... Well, I have a GM then. Now, the other problem with a table is that you're then constrained to thinking in that table. This does happen if you have a table of all the different roles that can be within a castle, such as one that I provided for my Patreons. If you're looking at that table and someone goes, no, I don't want to speak to the Chamberlain, I want to speak to the Chamberlain's assistant. What's their title? That's not on the random list. I can't tell you what their title is. I don't know. What is the title of someone who assists the Chamberlain? That's basically, I would say, probably a steward, or perhaps maybe, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I would just call them a servant, a chamber servant, perhaps. Again, because I was locked to the table, my brain wasn't absolutely able to go and just create something on the fly. It was trying to interpret what the table was saying. So there's a certain way you can get locked in. So tables... They have lots of pros, they have lots of cons as well. We have to be aware of those two facts. Now, how do we avoid then creating tables that are going to entrap us? Because tables also limit us in terms of, well, if it's not on the table, I don't know what should be there. So how do we avoid that? Well, the very first thing that we do is when you're generating a table, and by the way, I strongly suggest that you generate your own tables first rather than using somebody else's tables. Why? Well, the very basic rule is if you've created that table yourself, you kind of already know what's in that table. So when you are then using it on game night and you are rolling, it's not like it's a complete surprise. You might go, oh, I didn't remember that I did that. That's genius. You might go, oh, I included that. I don't know what I was thinking at the time. Less coffee for me. However, you are at least familiar with what is on that table. If you are using somebody else's tables, I would suggest you take those and you remake them in your own world setting, in your own space. So again, there's that personal ownership of those tables. Why do I say that? Well, because if you're creating a table and you go, okay, a random encounter might be a giant green dragon for my level 1 characters. That's not a really good idea. So adding insane options to a table, tables give us that sort of glee. There's a moment where we go, oh, I'm going to make a double 1. I'm going to make a double 1 so devilishly evil that if it gets rolled, they'll be absolutely in fear. And then 6 months later, you're wandering through the woods, your characters are having fun, your players are having fun, and you roll and it's a double 1 and it's like, oh, the game is over because you get attacked by an undead dragon, Dracolich, and it's way too powerful. because at the time I thought it was a good idea. So don't create insane options, create mundane options. Random tables should be there to fill in the little gray areas. If you are going to have some kind of earth-shattering, world-changing event, you should control that as the game master. Own that, plan for it, and release it at the appropriate time. Do not let a random table do that for you. Finally, when you are making tables, the worst thing that you can possibly do is create a table that says reference another table. I hate that, absolutely hate it. Now I know sometimes it's impossible not to do that, but limit that, limit it completely. So if you are doing a random encounter out in the wild, I remember second edition used to do this. You used to have your dice. Thank you, Easy Roller Dice, for giving me these beautiful dice. You would take your D10 and you would roll it and you'd go, oh, I rolled a 1. That means you have an encounter. Go to table number 2. All right, so now it's a percentile roll. So I've got to find my percentile. I'll be with you now, guys. Sorry, I'm just rolling to see what's going to happen here. Oh, 87. Oh, okay. All right, great. You get attacked by 5 kobolds in the Arctic because someone made an insane table. Do you see what I'm driving at here? Is that the referencing and referencing and referencing, it's just slowing down the game. Why can't you, as the GM, just look at the table and go, you know, from a pacing perspective, we haven't had an encounter for a while. The party is no longer talking amongst each other. They're just experiencing this intense cold in this Arctic environment. Okay, I want an encounter, but I don't really know what to think of in terms of my encounter. So let me check my encounter table that I generated earlier on for this region or just in general. I look at that table surreptitiously while the players are talking to each other and I go, oh, okay, I quite like the idea of a polar bear attack, but why would a polar bear be attacking? Perhaps it's being chased by something. Aha, I don't know what that is yet. I don't need to figure that out. I've triggered the event that a polar bear is going to attack, and so now the polar bear attacks. The party defeats the polar bear, and then they have to figure out what was attacking it, but that's okay, because whilst they're fighting the polar bear, you've already looked at your random table again and determined that there is an ice hag that is in the area, and she perhaps was trying to hunt the polar bear, or had killed the polar bear's cubs and the polar bear was running away in fear. Whatever. I mean, off you go. Right, so speed is the key. This is what I am driving at. If it takes you longer than 10 seconds and 1 or 2 dice rolls in order to get the table working, it's slowing you down. It's not actually helping. It would be faster to just sit there for a moment, think about some random stuff, and throw it into your game. So then the table is not really helping. So speed is what it's all about. And then finally, as far as I'm concerned, and if you haven't picked that up yet in this video, then I don't know what you've been watching, but nothing should be random. There should never just be a random event. If the dice say, well, they should be attacked by orcs, you need to be able to answer, and there is no table really that I think you should actually use for this, because otherwise you're rolling table after table after table. But if the orcs attack, they need to attack for a reason. They have to attack that party because they want something from the party. It could just be that they're bandits, but then they have to be bandits, and that means they have to have a bandit camp, which means that the players should be able to find a bandit camp somewhere nearby. Why would they journey further than 5 or 6 miles away from their bandit camp? That doesn't make sense. They would have left a trail, which a good PC would be able to follow back to the bandit camp. Did they have wives and children with them at the bandit camp? Why are they bandits? Why aren't they working and living in the city? All of those answers are going to spring up whenever you use something that is random on that table. So if it's a name generator, maybe you don't have to worry too much, because a random name of, let's say, Knockquist is a gnome, and that's all I need to know. The players are unlikely to go, hey, why is your name Knockquist? Well, it was random in my family. My great-grandfather was Knockquist the first, and my grandfather was Knockquist the second, and then my dad was, well, he was Elbert, but that's only because he came from a different line. It was my mother's granddad, you see. You still have to be able to create a reason why something is happening. So nothing is random. Often I don't even look at the die roll. I simply look at the random table, get my inspiration from it, use it for its power, and then move on. I put that into the game because I've worked out a few of those questions that the PCs are most likely to answer. Those are my thoughts on random table generators. Now, randomly, you could hit that like button, or also randomly, you could hit that subscribe button. And the random table is you roll a 1d1, and that's what you have to do, because it's a random table, and there you go. That's how they work. Anyway, let's see who our sponsor is. And I think you want to watch this because they have random tables that you can make in their program free of charge, and it works beautifully. So I was talking about the random generator that you can build within World Anvil. Now, again, World Anvil have been with us for ages. We love them, and they seem to love us, which is great. They're good friends of mine, and their software, apart from being an amazing world aggregator, world generator, we were talking about homebrew last week in terms of creating your own worlds, keeping all of your notes together, they also have random tables. So you literally are making tables. I've made this table for different names. I've got 40 names here, and I could increase this whenever a moment strikes, whenever there's an opportunity for me to make a new random table. I go into World Anvil, I can create it in World Anvil, and then there is an option for it to roll, and it will highlight the line, which I particularly like because that's really easy to see. Even though it does that, it's much more powerful in terms of just presenting me with a list of names that I know I can use and work through. So World Anvil, use the code GREATGM to get a discount if you sign up for a subscription, which is not required in order to use World Anvil, but it does unlock certain features which you will find incredibly useful. Anyway, to World Anvil, thank you for helping bring this show to life, and to those who suggested the show in Discord, I do appreciate it, and I encourage the rest of you to submit more. Until next time, however, I wish you and yours the very happiest of gaming.